This is a letter hand wrote at Carlson's office when Steve Bannock, I hired him, and the Bar Association has allowed him no consequences when he's been turned in at least 3 other times for ethical things like this. This is Steve Bannock's handwriting on 8/28. He's requesting a continuance. I kept firing him. Every witness there will tell you that I said that, unless they lie. See, you can tell it's his writing because he almost spelled my name with a Y. But if I'm Billie S. on all charges, both of these, why is Billie Sue always spelled out, including press release? So he's saying, actually, Steve Bannock's the one requesting Judge Atkinson. I just said I'm not going before Judge Carlson. And there's Steve Bannock's signature claiming to be my lawyer after I had fired him. That was not there when I seen this paper. He told me to just sign it because it was the only way to get out of being seen in front of Carlson. Here is a letter. Did they put a date on it? They did. Right here is the date. On February 27th, 2013, I got my civil service FBI clearance back, and it came up with the 1994 charge, and I went to the Mansfield Magistrate Office, which is now run by James Carlson, but in 94 he was the district attorney. And I wanted to know how come a charge in 94 of harassment was on there, because Judge Signer did not hold court for it. So he signed a letter stating that he has no records of Billie Sue Masco, now known as Billie Sue Atkinson, pleading guilty to harassment in 1994. Stamped and signed by Judge Carlson. Here is another piece of paper that's Steve Bannock's writing. I wrote Bannock's writing after I had brain damage. As you can see, I was really struggling to write back then. And why does it again say Billie Sue every time I'm getting information? Now, when my medical records come back, it's all Billie S. Why did the newspaper write up say Billie Sue if it was Billie S. and I have a middle name? This was court in Wellsboro saying that he will appear for me on Monday, October 14th. Signed by Judge Edgecombe. But I had no idea. They put a bunch of papers in front of me. The judge and Steve Bannock kept telling me that that I just needed to have any defense. I couldn't talk anything about how there is no way I would have ended up coming out drunk on a DUI when I was totally sober. I think that's why Steve Bannock said, I will appear for you here. I kept telling him he was fired. He refused to leave. Then I went back and got paperwork, and it says, they gave me this, and I'm looking at it after, when I'm really stressed. I didn't understand what all was going on, but I was supposed to report October 8th, 2013 at 4 p.m. to report to the courthouse to probation. How did I end up on bail when I'm pleading when I'm pleading innocent of this and have not had any opportunity for a fair hearing? And this was the morning I sat outside the courthouse, and with extreme brain damage now, and when Steve Bannock went to come into the courtroom, I walked with him. And this is when I told him to fix whatever he just did, because there ain't no way I want a fair preliminary hearing. And he said, yeah. He put me over to Mary Morris. The following week I went to him, and he told me he'd fix it, but didn't. Mary Morris said, I'll see what I can do, but then all we were doing is going to court for the tasering. This was one of the pieces of paper that I signed at Judge Edgecombe's, not, being extremely stressed, and Steve Bannock wouldn't even sign this one. I said, how come you're not signing? Which made me realize that something had gone wrong here, especially after right afterwards I found out somehow I ended up on probation stipulations. On this one from Edgecombe's, this is another piece of paper in this big pile of paper that I signed, not having adequate counsel, that somebody else signed. That's not Steve Bannock's signature. It says bail authority, and then stamped. So this one, there wasn't even anybody in there that I did not know. So we've got the assistant attorney for our district attorney Wheeler that showed up here, and Steve Bannock and Edgecombe and Bob Scott. So I don't know where this guy was, but he wasn't in the room with us. Now we have stipulations of bail signed by Edgecombe, and I don't know who witnessed it, but I just told you everybody that was in that room. So how come I was the only one signing papers to be able to tell my side of the story? Remember what I looked like in 2009, when in 2001 they would not allow me any protection from my now ex-husband, who in 2009 did this. And the district attorney wanted me to sign a piece of paper in 2001 that said that he was the one is the victim. But when I read it in 2001, it stated that if he gave me restitution, his office would be reimbursed. I refused to sign it, so the charges ended up being filed against my ex-husband, but they never gave him any consequences. Here's the only other news that I can find on another tasering. This states Brenda Mattis. This was done in May of 2009, and it was published in Williamsport Sun Gazette. Brenda Mattis, District Judge Philip Sweet's office. According to the court document, she was charged with aggravated assault, resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, and harassment after state police were called to the residence on a report of a woman threatening to commit suicide. Mattis's father told police he had seen his daughter with a shotgun outside the house, heard it go off, and then saw her walking away. Police alleged that Mattis became uncooperative when they tried to take her into custody, kicking one of the state troopers in the groin with her knee and grabbing the tie from the neck of the other trooper. Mattis had to be tasered in order for police to gain control of her. She was jailed in Tioga County Prison. This is the write-up. It says October 3rd, but it couldn't have been, because it was actually in the paper. Maybe October 3rd is the online version where I got this from. But this was in the news, or in the Williamsport paper on front page. September, it would have been the Monday following the 27th of September. Billie Sue, 44, was charged by police after they found her sitting in the middle of Morse Run Road. They didn't find me there, and it doesn't even say alleged. District Judge Carlson again. She was charged with resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, and public drunkenness. At the hearing, they dropped the public drunkenness. Therefore, now they've got me on disorderly conduct, and that's not even arrestable. And they've also altered evidence in this case. Says I'm unsteady in footing and smelled like alcohol. Well, I remember feeling the wind on my face, even if I had a reeked of alcohol. That I believe would insinuate that a purposeful lie. To me, that was fighting words, as well as all the rest of his questions. What is your name? Well, I told you I had a history with him being a victim, and he's already threatened to, threaten me in the other 2 times I've run into him. Says even farther, the Atkinson alleged came at police in a hostile move and refused to cooperate, using profanity. Continued to yell and be hostile towards police, prompting them to taser her. I was yelling, and there's nothing we seen in that video that was hostile. And it also says I was uncooperative with ambulance personnel. And I kept sliding my handcuffs from back to front. So she had to be secured in a transmit belt and handcuffed to keep her from slipping them to the front. And this is when they jailed me on September 27th. They released me about 24 hours later by using Judge Carlson again. But how do we know this information? They must have added it to the online version, because this was on front page news. The newspaper sitting on my family doctor's table the morning I tried to go get medical treatment. The hearing wasn't scheduled until the 3rd. This is a document from Tioga County Prison saying, a lot of which I can't even read, but does not appear past concussive. I wonder if that's meaning that I don't have a concussion. They didn't even wash that wound out, and I laid on Tioga County Prison's floor, I guess, as their reason for force. Did know year, did not know month. Was not cooperative. Scalp laceration. These were some of the words I can make out. Severe anxiety is what I believe that is. Well, I was scared to death. I was confused. My brain wouldn't work. Here is Brenda Mattis's in 2009. Here's the date. And in here, it's signed by a Corporal K.L. Young. And I'm just wondering if this woman had ended up with head concussion, you know, the medical term for brain damage. Here it is almost a year later, and I'm still not getting treatment. In here, I went to the prothonotary's office a week before court and found this information out when I had been asking public defenders of this before. But do you see this? These same troopers, I'm not sure which this one is, Trooper G. Moore, I don't think I've ever run into him, and J. Miller. Jason Miller. Is that the same Jason Miller that tasered me, that tasered Brenda Mattis in 2009?